near the dozen-person town of Netherhill, Saskatchewan, about 2 hours west of Saskatoon. The second ring went to his father-in-law, Jim Juba. Grandpa Juba was another solid prairie farm guy with an endearing Ukrainian accent who naturally vibed with my dad. It was a measure of love that my dad shared those rings with two men who had a big influence on his life. In time, both of those rings would find their way back to him. In that same spirit, Dad eventually passed on one of his rings to Jeff at his high school graduation, a family treasure meant to last a lifetime. In the year 2000, it was my turn. Dad left when I was about 8 and Jeff was 11, and so by high school graduation, my mother, Janice, had spent years with us, grinding over the day-to-day details of life. Mom was lovely, and the picture of patience and commitment through some days that weren't easy. Because of that, I admit to feeling like she got jobbed out of some much-deserved attention the day my ring came. She had put in the work as a single mom for roughly a decade by that point. It was in June and at my high school graduation, an event I see as a triumph over the mundane details of daily life, when a day known for celebrating the rote turned its attention to the rare. It was a substantial piece of gold with 2 sizable diamonds to represent the second Islanders Cup, set in the middle of an Islander blue stone, and it instantly became the star of the show. To a 17-year-old kid, it was an incredible gift. You might think the weight of something like that could crush a kid that age, particularly one with some hockey aspirations, but not for a second did I consider it something to live up to. It was so far beyond where I was in the sport that it didn't even feel like it was earned in the same field. I wasn't on track for the draft. I didn't even know when that was. I was off to see if I could crack a junior A team, I did not that first summer, with the grand end goal of having some university pay for my education. That I did eventually manage to accomplish. Maybe it would have been different had I grown up in a house with my dad, or had he coached my hockey teams or something along the way, but the field in which that ring was earned somehow felt entirely separate from whatever it was I was doing. I was beyond proud to have it. That generosity and connection meant a lot then, but even more later. Life after hockey had not been easy for my dad. A variety of factors affected his life, his demeanor, and his personality. Concussions and alcohol are a part of that story. He'd tell you the same. And good luck untangling which to hold accountable for what. It's also well established that children of alcoholics have a much greater likelihood of developing their own issues with alcohol. Let's just say, if your father is both an alcoholic and a Stanley Cup winner, your odds of following in his footsteps down one path is far more likely than down the other. If life ever leads you to the epiphany that it's time to boil a frog, apparently there are some loose guidelines to help you on your way. I'm told that if you boil the water first, then drop the amphibian in, it will jump directly out. The contrast from its previous normal is just too much. But if you put one in a pot on the stove and turn the heat up ever so slowly, a degree at a time, it won't notice the temperature increases, and before you know it, voila, you've made frog legs. That seems relevant when discussing my relationship with Dad in the years after he retired. Intermittent incidents became part of the increasing temperature of the water, and I never jumped out, strange as that might have seemed for those on the outside. I probably looked like the frog in the water, continuing to put up with the ever-rising heat, even if just a degree at a time. I assure you, though, that wasn't the case. I never got used to the new temperatures that came with Dad's struggles, period. I just consciously chose to tolerate them because what was the alternative? Not having a relationship? I usually saw the next small heat increase coming and steeled myself yet again rather than hopping free. I'm not sure that choice, which I made over and again, was ever right or wrong. I still don't know. Today, I make a living analyzing hockey. I imagine the reason I'm at least somewhat useful in this gig is that I've always excelled at reading the play, both on the ice and off. It's what got me as far as I did as a professional player, and what led to me being hired as a video coach in the American Hockey League. Show me how a breakout is unfolding at one end, or a forecheck, and I can make a reasonably accurate guess as to how things will unfold over the next 10 seconds, even if they end up 200 feet away. With that attribute as a strength, it's possible I knew Dad was going to take the ring even before he did. His mind hadn't been right for a while, but he was particularly unwell then, and so avoiding disaster on his visit to Toronto from Kelowna in 2013 seemed unlikely even before he'd arrived. We were on high alert. But the odd range of what could go sideways didn't hit me until we were 5 steps inside my apartment and he asked...